Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Bearable Bull here. And I got this aggressively average content for you today. And ladies and gentlemen, before I get started, I have to say, I have a little stage fright today. I went into the toxic cesspool that was crypto Twitter yesterday and actually had to take a day off from making videos. I was so afraid. We were seeing a grand rumble between so many different people on Twitter. It looked a little bit like this.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Ladies and gentlemen, all I've seen over the past couple days is the ignorance and belligerence on Twitter. Absolute pandemonium. We saw Brian Quintes, the current FTC chairman, stating, just so we're clear, that SEC has no authority over pure commodities or their trading venues, whether those commodities are wheat, gold, oil, or crypto assets. We see a jurisdictional turf war between the SEC, Cftc, and who's going to get to regulate the crypto space, and I like it. It is showing the incompetence. I love Brian Quintes at this very moment in time. Currently, I actually believed initially that Gary Gensler was going to be more beneficial to crypto. And after reading and seeing all the interviews he's been on, ladies and gentlemen, he may be worse than Jay Clayton. Jay Clayton was a catalyst for that SEC Ripple lawsuit. Not very good for us, but it was a catalyst for regulatory clarity. And now Gary Gensler is over here, straight lying to the people. We're going to get right into that and play that brief clip. But first, I have to say this. If you aren't doing so already, please take a minute to consider signing up to my mentorship program down in the description below. As over the past week, I've gotten plenty of VIPs to sign up, and it's been humbling to see the level, the caliber of the VIPs that have signed up. And also the group sessions have been very powerful, with plenty of individuals just trying to change their lives and taking a chance on me to help inform them on how to do that. You'll get access to the Lifetime Discord, where I promote my exit strategies for every single crypto and provide resources at a rapid rate to every single member of the community that's in there. Ladies and gentlemen, we had someone call in from the ER for having some heart issues yesterday, and I was like, damn, that's truly humbling to hear. People are really taking the time out and taking this very seriously, and it's been a humbling experience meeting all of you in this program. So thank you all for taking the time to trust in me to be your mentor, and I'm taking this very seriously. So all of you that may be interested, go down in the description below and actually try and contact us through our live chat and support group, and Jordan will get back to you immediately. Now here, I'm going to show you on the screen a woman by the name of Anja Manuel, and she is a director at Ripple. Everyone affiliated with Ripple is a powerhouse in their own respect. Former diplomat, author, and advisor on emerging markets. She is a co-founder and partner along with former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, former National Security Advisor Stephen Hadley, and former Secretary of Defense Robert Gates, and Rice Hadley Gates and Manuel LLC, a strategic consulting firm that helps U.S. companies navigate international markets. Needless to say, she is a powerhouse, and she was questioning Gary Gensler yesterday as to the state of the crypto market. Excellent questions asked, and this is the frustrating way in which Gary Gensler responded. Please take a listen.
First one is, I noticed you made a comment early in your speech that said the probability is that with 50 plus tokens that most of them are securities. The Q&A exploded into, understandably, well, how do we know which one is a security, which one isn't? Why did Ethereum and Bitcoin get a free pass? And do you believe that's still appropriate, even though Ethereum, many people believe, was an ICO? Are you going to keep doing this regulation through litigation, which is what currently is going on, Or are you going to set some clear criteria so people in the market will know if they're issuing a security or if something has become a real currency or a commodity because it has a real use case?
So it's a great set. I know you're combining different people's questions, but it's a great set of questions. Let me say, I think there's actually a fair amount of clarity. And why did I quote Jay Clayton to say it crosses chairs, it crosses party lines, it crosses different philosophies? I mean, Jay and I really met as he was in this job, and he was in his job, and I was at MIT. I think there's a lot of clarity, this Howey test and these other tests, Reeves test. There's something called Gary, Indiana, Gary Plastic, not Gary Gensler. There's a number of tests that really is quite clear. What I'm trying to say about the platforms, and then I'll get to your point about regulation by litigation, I think was what Anja said.
Yeah. Actually, it's a question that I think came from John Burton and Julie Globus. Yeah.
Right there, John and Julie. But I think that the platforms, look, if you have 3 or 5 tokens, you know, I'm not going to judge any one token. It's facts and circumstances. I'm not going to judge any one token on this open WebEx. It's possible. But when you get to 25, 50, 100 tokens, probabilities are it's pretty unlikely that all 50, all 100 don't pass the Howey test. And Michael, with all respect, we've been awfully clear on a bunch of this stuff. So I'm pushing back a little bit with all respect. And is that I think that Jay Clayton was pretty clear 4 years ago, or no, 3.5 years ago. I think 75 cases in this area, and you can go to the SEC website and see them, have been clear. I think the Dow report in 2017, the Munchie order late in 2017.
Now, guys, what we see here was a Ripple director asking for Ether and Bitcoin clarity directly and asking about Ether's clarity because it did run an ICO. Why was Ether given the green light but others are not being given the green light? She was asking about clarity on that. Will you regulate through litigation and some leeway, or some leeway? And here we see Gary Gensler being incompetent and or a lying bureaucrat. I think it's both by saying that there's clarity. Ladies and gentlemen, my mom had stated in the past that she never liked Gary Gensler, and I asked her why. She said it's because he'll drop the ball, because he's an academic, he's a teacher, and not a savage, high-level performer. And right now what we're seeing is Gary Gensler having regulatory erectile dysfunction. Oh, it's okay, Gary. We all get a little stage fright from time to time. But for you, I have a very special recommendation. I'll prescribe to you some common sense. Some side effects you may experience from this common sense may include not obliterating the future of the United States' economic growth infrastructure, considering we are the most indebted nation on the planet and our currency is falling through the floor. This is the 4th industrial revolution. This is something you've taught at MIT, and you as a regulator are failing. There is no such thing as regulatory clarity. Gary Gensler, get your act together. Brad Garlinghouse gave his 2 cents on what Gary Gensler stated. Please take a listen.
It's very clear that China has been extremely strategic on this point. As Sigal already pointed out, they started years and years ago. The U.S. is very late to this party, and the U.S.'s engagement, as we've heard, is not so far in supporting the United States. The Internet of Information, as we know it today, in part thrived because there was that regulatory clarity in the late 90s. And we're doing the opposite here. Here's a massive new industry that I believe without question will underpin the future of our financial systems, not just around payments where Ripple primarily works today, but more broadly than that. And if the U.S. doesn't get ahead of this, if we don't have that clarity and that certainty, and again, I thought in my judgment, when you're dealing with an alcoholic who doesn't want to admit they have an alcohol problem, to say that we have certainty, we have clarity is like the alcoholic saying, I don't have a problem. Like, this is the elephant in the room. And I think, what you've heard from Sigal, I think very eloquently, if we don't address this, we're going to fall further behind.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the most disrespectful I've ever seen Brad Garlinghouse be. He was much more polite than the bull. But at the end of the day, he is correct. We need clarity. And it shocks me that Gary Gensler is trying to do this. The reason is because he himself has stated in the past the issues at hand.
We have been leapfrogged by others, by digital currency, by digital Chinese currency. Why? Because, frankly, our central bank has been slow. And there's an appointment coming in January of 22. The president's got to decide whether to change over who's leading the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve runs our payment system. Right. And I think we need to move that Federal Reserve into the monetary.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I find it very convenient that the Boston Fed and MIT are going to release a digital dollar prototype as soon as July. We understand that when we hear the words MIT, we think Gary Gensler and the school he used to teach at. I actually wanted to initially get into MIT, as I wanted to be a civil engineer when I was applying for school. However, what I will say is that when I think MIT, I also think about Algorand. Algorand and Gary Gensler, they're both connected to MIT. And I find it convenient that Gary Gensler has been discussing about that digital dollar and digital dollar prototypes and the race about digitalization and digitizing the digital dollar. Algorand could play a powerful role in that. Gary Gensler, I'm sure, knows plenty about Algorand. We've seen Algorand connected to Ripple and have many photo opportunities with Michael Arrington, founder of TechCrunch and XRP Capital, and Brad Garlinghouse, the Ripple CEO. That's why I've been so bullish on Algo and its compliance with the ISO 2002 standard. Wink, wink. Gems are being given. Ladies and gentlemen, the world, it's going toward a digital CBDC cashless society. China's ahead, the US is behind, and we have to catch up. The technology is there, but the regulators need to hurry the hell up. We need the clarity. And Gary Gensler, he has not been providing it. Actually deflecting and saying that it's there when we know it's not. This is why I've been stating, I think it's important that we have some cash on the side in case some corrections happen due to regulations, due to the SEC, due to some enforcement of exchanges, enforcement of Tether. They're going to weed out the scams and the non-compliance. And then after we have that framework and regulatory clarity, then the compliant cryptos will truly take over the entire planet. Never forget it. This is the game we're playing. We need to see these results. Just in case this correction happens, I'm ready to buy the dip. And if it doesn't, I'm ready to ride it on the way up. Never forget that strategy, as it'll probably let you win. When we've been seeing that regulation has been on the forefront of the crypto space's mind. Brian Armstrong talking about the infrastructure bill in the US and the effects it'll have in the crypto space. A lot of people think it's negative. I think it's better than not being discussed at all. We're heading into a world where we are finally getting clarity. Brad Garlinghouse talked about in 2018, HINMAN said ETH isn't a security, and Clayton agreed. But why? Why is it that HINMAN and that sworn affidavit in court says the SEC hasn't taken a stance? Back and forth from the SEC, and it's not going to look good for them. They're losing in court, but it's excellent for Ripple. The crypto space is under threat. This is uncharted territory. We're seeing Julia Chatterley on CNN giving the BIS head Augustin Carstens plenty of airtime and saying that big tech is the biggest threat to financial stability. CBDCs and XRP are the bank's only saving grace, trying to fight off big tech. Facebook's DM was a big catalyst for XRP adoption that will be coming sooner than we all expect. And that's something you guys can all never forget. Gary Gensler is talking about it. The Congress and Senate are talking about it. It's being inserted into bills. and this is more progress in the crypto space than I've ever seen before. The short term will be volatile, but the long term into infinity and beyond will be life changing. Guys, to cap off this video for today, please listen to a couple Gary Gensler clips so you can please gain his perspective on what he's thinking. Prepare for anything, and it's a blessing that we're closer than we've ever been before. This is the Bearable Bull here, guys. Thanks for tuning in. As always, I appreciate every single one of you, and I'll be back tomorrow with another video.
I'm watching Bitcoin, and I'm not tying it to anything that you're saying, but I got to tell you that having a regulator or a government official just that knows what he's talking about in a calm manner, I think it's helping allay some fears that you turn on the light when you look into an abyss. But my question is, you're a professor, you know how to teach people. Did you ever think of maybe, I don't know, just sending out an email to some of your colleagues in D.C., whether it be at the Fed or in Congress or wherever, and just saying, hey, I'm going to give a little seminar on what crypto actually is. Have you thought about doing that? Because I see things from people in a position to do things that show almost a zero lack of understanding of what we're dealing with here. Well, why don't you offer to do that, to educate some of your associates down in D.C.?
Well, you're kind. I learn every day from talking to my colleagues.
You learn what they don't know.
Let me just say, I've had wonderful one-on-one discussions with both senators and members of the House, sometimes in group sessions. I don't want to share, but I compliment
senators,
those that
Treasury secretaries,
for discussion on crypto.
Fed chairs, Treasury secretaries, senators, all everywhere then.
Secretary Yellen convened a terrific meeting where we talked about stable value coins, and my colleagues, Chair Powell was in the room, and Yellen and McWilliams, and Chair Benham. I mean, we were there, the President's Working Group. We had a really engaged discussion that she chaired.
Hi, Gensler, and welcome back to Office Hours. What does the SEC have to do with crypto? And why is the chair of the SEC talking about crypto? Now, technology's come along decade after decade, but those that have a chance to thrive, grow, come within a public policy framework. To be clear, I think that the SEC should be technology neutral. But one thing we're not neutral on is investor protection. Our agency, the SEC, has had rules for decades to protect people when companies want to raise money from them, or when we as investors buy and sell securities on an exchange like the New York Stock Exchange. But you see, crypto trading platforms, crypto lending platforms don't have the same level of investor protection that you've come to expect buying and selling stocks on a stock exchange or investing in a mutual fund or a 401k. In the years since Bitcoin was started, literally thousands of other tokens have been launched, many of which traded on platforms may well be securities under our laws. That means if the platforms and certain of the tokens don't register with the SEC, they're non-compliant with the important federal protections in our laws. So I've asked the staff of the SEC to use all of our authorities anywhere we can to uncover any wrongdoing. Our authorities aren't enough. I've also recommended to Congress for them to consider filling those gaps with a goal of investor protection. To those currently or considering investing in crypto, please remember, not only are they a highly speculative asset class, but there are also significant gaps in the investor protection afforded to you. I think that moving forward, promoting investor protection is not only good for you and for anyone who would consider investing in these assets. I think that it's the only real viable path forward for this nascent technology. See, at the heart of finance is trust, and trust rests on investor protection. And so that's what the SEC has to do with crypto, investor protection.